When a small team is trying to move tactically, the preferred formation, if the terrain allows, is the wedge. And what that looks like is you have the point man up front, and you just kind of make a wedge, right? Now, the way this works, we have the guy in front is typically the team leader. He's going to be the one driving the actual direction. On the strong side, you have the grenadier and rifleman facing out. And then you have the guy with the biggest gun, machine gun or automatic rifle. He is on the weak side, also pointing out. And the way this works, theoretically, is if an enemy shows up to the front, everybody can just get online and return fire. And you have maximum firepower. People aren't in each other's way. If the enemy shows up to the right, you have just one guy that needs to get over, and now you have solid firepower applied to them. And then if guys show up on the left, you have the automatic rifleman, the guy with the biggest gun. He's able to hold down the fort while these guys come around, and now you have all your firepower pointed over there. Now, naturally, if you have a team of 3, that's your wedge. If you have a team of 5, that's your wedge. And you can kind of scale this up or down as needed, but this is usually what it looks like with a strong side and a weak side, and then you can collapse it down in tight terrain or expand it out as the terrain allows. But we'll talk more about that in another video. It's easy to fall in love with the fire team wedge because of its ability to return fire in all directions. It's a very powerful, very effective formation in open terrain. However, the terrain won't always allow it. So sometimes you're going to get constrictions like this. They may be short, they may be long, but the wedge is not going to work because you can't expect everybody to just push through this heavy brush. That's not going to be effective. It's not going to be fast. It's going to be loud and noisy. So what's going to happen is the team leader is going to call for a file formation. And what's going to happen is everybody just falls in line, single file, they collapse down, and they just play follow the leader through the terrain. And then when the terrain opens up and it makes sense, the team leader is going to call wedge, and everybody's going to go back into where they were and continue the fight that way. Files are generally going to be a lot faster, but the nature of a file is that if you run into contact in the front, you only have one guy that can return fire. So if, this is a losing battle right there because he's just outmatched and the guy behind him cannot easily get online, and you can run the risk of just getting fire straight down your formation. So you don't want to do this unless you really have to. Wedges are better for the ability to return fire and to get everybody online, but it's not always available. So make sure you have that drill practice so your team knows on the command of file, everybody collapses. On the wedge command, everybody expands out. So it's a quick and rapid process. The diamond is an interesting formation that trades a bit of firepower for protection and security. Naturally, the wedge, we have all of our guns pointed out for maximum firepower pointed out. With the diamond, we basically take this flank guy and make him dedicated rear security. And that sucks because, you don't have that extra firepower pointing out. But if you're a small team operating independently of a larger company or platoon, it may be nice to have someone watching that rear direction, because as soon as you pass an area, you no longer have it cleared. Right? And similarly, even if you're part of a larger organization, if you are operating in an urban environment, you never know when a bad guy's going to pop out of a manhole cover or pop out of a window, because you can't effectively clear things very rapidly. So operating in a diamond formation gives you that added protection. The way this is going to work is that the team leader is still going to be setting the direction and pace. These guys are going to be following behind, looking out as best they can. And then this guy is basically walking backwards, scanning for threats. And he'll look over his shoulder, left and right, to make sure he's making eye contact with these guys, making sure he's getting any information, halt signals, stuff like that, passed down. But overall, it's still a very effective formation, because if you take contact from the right, these guys can flank over, and suddenly you've got all your firepower there. Similarly, contact from the left, and you've got getting on line formation going to the left. So you can still respond pretty effectively, but it gives you that added bonus of protection to the rear. The echelon left and right formations are very handy as flank formations of a larger element. So you're not going to do this on your own, but if you're the leftmost element, like we are here, where we have a fire team there, and then we have our main body moving forward, it can be very, very helpful for the larger operation to make sure that the flank elements, the left and right guys, are doing something like this. So the direction of movement is forward towards the enemy positions, but these guys are facing outward. So if any enemies show up on the far left flank, you're already online and can respond just like that. And naturally, if we were on the right side, it would be inverted, so that we'd be worried about there. You can only really do this when you have good security to your rear and your inside area. So naturally, we've got friendlies here. We don't have to worry about it. We can face out. So useful thing. Don't forget, you don't always have to be in a wedge or a file. You can adapt the formation to the needs of the broader mission. During tactical movement, spacing between soldiers is always very, very important. Greener troops tend to like to stick together because combat is very scary naturally, and being closer to your buddies gives you a sense of safety because you can whisper to each other, you can physically reach out and touch each other. But this creates problems because a single grenade, mortar strike, or artillery strike landing right there can very easily wipe out the bulk of your fire team, and then nobody's there to support you, and you're just going to die. Similarly, if you have an enemy, like we got right over here, laying down fire with a machine gun, he can very easily engage the entire team when they're all stuck together, even with a narrow field of fire coming out. So for this reason, it's important that we space out. So typically, you want to have about 5 to 10 meters between each element. This gives distance so that if an explosion, grenade, mortar, whatever goes off, only one, maybe two people are affected. Similarly, with the machine gunner, he can really only engage one individual at a time, which gives everybody else the ability to maneuver, suppress, and not get pinned down or injured due to his fire. Now, naturally, this scales up or down with terrain. If the terrain is really, really open, if we have good lines of visibility, if the element is experienced and comfortable with each other, you may be able to really press this out well beyond the 5 to 10 meter spacing and give it really cover a lot of ground. This has a lot of advantages because then you're really able to spread out, cover a lot of ground, but you have to make sure that you can communicate with hand and arm signals. You have to make sure that you're able to not lose each other in the brush. And of course, if the terrain starts to constrict a little bit more, everyone then collapses down. This changing of the formation, expanding and contracting, is really something that comes with experience. Having a good experienced crew goes a long way in making sure that you can do cool stuff like that.